makes me like this version of this Porygon 2 team more. I wouldn't even call it a Porygon 2 team, but something that I like the fact that you actually have offensive options here paired with it.
Yeah, and I think some very strong offensive options. We've got Flutter Mane on the special side. Really, that in combination with Porygon 2, if of course the download boost is procced, is pretty much all you need. And being able to actually have Ghost Terra as an option is actually cool to see as well.
Well, we're getting the Porygon 2 and a way to be putting some pressure on. That'll be Porygon and the Gouging Fire to kick things off for Justin. Landorus Incarnate and Rillaboom Aurelien. And right away, see the trees. You also get to see the Photosynthesis with that booster energy. The speed, no surprise there.
Yeah, none at all. And we did actually see the special attack increase as well via the download, which automatically adds a lot of pressure over on Aurelien's side and maybe even a focus down from them too. Maybe the fake out will likely try to target down the Porygon 2 because it just has a lot of room for being able to maneuver itself. But more importantly, the Gouging Fire always does have the option of going for any sort of offensive move straight off the bat.
It's whether you want to keep the Porygon 2 honest, or if you're worried about the potential of that Terra Ghost coming out and making sure that nothing's going to be happening. The Terra that is coming out, though, will be the Landorus Incarnate, making sure you're not going to be taking a bunch of damage from that potential Ice Beam. No Fake Out on the Porygon 2, instead into that Gouging Fire. Yeah. So the Porygon 2 can attack, but might not be for much.
Might not be for much at all. However, Sludge Bomb does focus down in that slot. No Earth Power there, maybe anticipating a Terrestrialization on that side of things, but the Ice Beam focus does target down the Lando. So really nice defensive Terrestrialization over on Aurelion's side in order to allow themselves a lot of more of resource management versus Justin.
That is still a lot of damage dealt onto the Gouging Fire at this point, and now that there has been that Terrestrialization coming out from Aurelien, sure, your Terra has been spent, but this Porygon 2 is not offering that same amount of pressure as it did once more. Sure, the Ice Beam into the Rillaboom could do a bunch, but bringing the Dragonite in here means that you're not going to be taking a super effective attack. It'd just be Protect, something we don't see too often coming out from Rillaboom.
Yeah, especially accompanied by that Meadow Play. But at this situation, being able to get that additional attack boost over on Dragonite's side with that switch in via the Howl is such a nice little side play from Justin, as the Gouging Fire is now down for the count. All it needed was, of course, that guaranteed 2-hit KO via the Poison Terrestrialization of the Sludge Bomb.
Get that attack boost while you still can, and a free opportunity to be pivoting into something that can help you a little bit more here. Porygon 2 coming back out onto the field. Dragonite at the +1. At this, right now, you still have that Life Orb. So you're at the +1, and you actually can be doing a significant amount of damage, unlike the Assault Vest that we saw necessarily earlier on in the day.
Yep.
And the Gouging Fire likes that speed because it has that booster energy, but now that you have this Dragonite on the field, something like that Trick Room to twist the dimensions in your favor could actually lead way for this Dragonite to do some damage.
And it's such a nice little interaction, being able to essentially have that Howl support on the side. Not only do you have the equivalent of, let's say, a Choice Band on your side, you've got additional damage and the potential of being able to freely select your moves and get any sort of protects into it.
Dragonite Terrestrialization, Normal type, and Extreme Speed. This has been used so much in VGC so far. No surprise there. More than handedly enough to take the Landorus Incarnate down. Wow. This Trick Room's not going to be for the Dragonite. It's going to have the priority, but instead the Porygon 2 can do it for itself and get the dimensions in its favor. Of course, it will be after an attack coming out from this Rillaboom, but Targonite into the Dragonite instead. Actually going to be trading KOs.
Yeah, so much damage being executed from both sides of the field. The Dragonite, even though it did get that huge KO onto the opposing Terrestrialized Pokemon, does have to unfortunately forego that mechanic as the Trick Room is now set up. So this may be a bit of a setup of perhaps in King Gambit entering that Trick Room mode phase of the game.
That still hurts a little bit. That Woodhammer would have been initially resisted so much had there not been the Terrestrialization, but anticipating that, hey, I need a little bit more with this extreme speed, going out of it and then going to be a neutral hit, so definitely tough. You do have now the dimensions in your favor. Ogremon Heartflame going to be hitting the field over on Aurelien's end here. Looking over at this Ogerpon, there's not going to be the double Grassy Glide coming out, but still a lot of damage if given the opportunity to attack, which it looks like it could, because King Gambit sometimes needs to set up a little bit before it could deal that massive amounts.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you could get any sort of stray, snarl, or electro webs, but none of those are, of course, in play this game. But King Gambit, maybe in combination with Porygon 2, if you double up on one side, may be able to do enough damage.
You see the nods coming out from Justin. Protect onto the Heartflame. Ogre Pond is the double up into the other slot. Iron Head going to be to kick it off. And Terra Blast from Porygon 2, the follow-up. Rillaboom's not going to be able to survive that and goes down.
Yeah, enough damage, of course, really well read there from Justin's side and able to identify the correct and appropriate focus down there. The Protect, the Spiky Shield would have been great if Aurelien did, of course, bait that double in, but being able to sort of forego that. Now bring in the Urshifu, it does have a really good chance of being able to at least pick up a KO here, but the redirection is in play.
Yeah, follow me. Make sure that everything's going to be targeted towards that, and you keep that Urshifu safe. Assurance will be the first to act there. It's still going to be above half. That could be such a dangerous attack, but not at that point. But the follow-up Terra Blast from Porygon 2 is putting in the work.
Wow! All of a sudden, you see this combination, even though the King Gambit hasn't been boosted, it deals so much damage, but guess what? It is actually retaliated with a KO of the close combat there, so the redirection really coming in clutch there.
That's why you had to keep the Urshifu safe, dealing out massive amounts of damage that, of course, is going to be that lowered defense and special defense. Now, 1v1, the Porygon 2 has that special attack boost. The Urshifu, that special defense drop. The Porygon 2 has to be putting in the most work now, and it has all match. Urshifu detecting through this turn, though.
Yeah, as we do have 2 Trick Room turns remaining, Aurelien wanting to go ahead and burn that additional turn, allow the Focus Sash to stay intact in order to get 2 consecutive close combats, hoping to guarantee the KO.
Ice Beam, see how much damage this does. See if you can get the freeze, and it will be the survival. Close combat followed off in return. The Porygon 2 surviving as well. But with the Trick Room expiring, the Urshifu and surviving will be able to pick up the KO on the next turn.
Yeah, very well played endgame from Aurelien, being able to capitalize off of that. You do have the really nice addition of the Follow Me redirection on the Ogerpon and the duality of being able to optimally choose the mode that you want to go for, as Aurelien's going to go ahead and pick up this game 1.
What a match between these two trainers. We knew it was going to be a good one, but coming down just to the wire. Now we have to see where we can change things up in this game too. And that's always a hard one when it's such a tough match and such a close match, because it could have just been a roll at the end. You could have had the roll, it could have been the freeze. There was a couple of different things. Both players really playing to capabilities. I think the biggest thing that's calling out to me is the Dragonite Terrestrialization. But also, if you don't Terra and you don't get the KO, then it also would have been something we're talking about now, like, hey, maybe if you Terra, you know?
Yeah, the sort of maybes and nuances of the different modes, as we do have the Howl and the Dragonite switch in at the opportune moment in order to be able to capitalize off of that. Maybe the Landorus was within range, like you're saying, Sierra, that Justin didn't need to commit to the Terrestrialization and have that available in the back with the King Gambit. But, well, it's left to be seen. We do know, of course, it did guarantee that KO at least.
Yeah, so you take the one, and hey, maybe we'll know now in this game too. We might see a different path going off from there. So it's one of those really, really tough calls. I like the little shrug. You might not have been at that moment, but I'm going to pretend that it was. That is how I'm feeling it. But yeah, it was definitely a really, really close match. I'm really surprised at the amount that Porygon 2 is able to accomplish in that. I know it got the Trace into the special attack, which is going to be helping it out. But still, it was putting in work once it got that Trick Room set up.
Yeah, and I picked up on something very interesting. The King Gambit is confirmed to be slower than the Porygon 2 under terms of Trick Room, so it was able to move first. And that's not usually the pair-up synergy combination you would expect with Assurance and Porygon 2, so maybe that's sort of like an anti-hard Trick Room mode option of offensive pressure that Justin can sort of apply depending on the matchup.
I'd be looking more at this Assurance with the other faster Pokemon that Justin has on his team. If you have this Fluttermane with like a Dazzling Gleam or Gouging Fire with the Breaking Swipe, you have these spread damage attacks that, hey, especially with the Gouging Fire, you get the other capability and you get to follow it up. We're talked about, to quickly say about the Fluttermane though, and that's what we're seeing from both players coming out in this game too, paired with the Wellspring Ogerpon on Justin's end and Landorus for Aurelien.
Yeah, we've got Choice Specs on one side versus Booster Energy on the other. The Booster Energy does have the option of opting to go for immediate speed control in order to guarantee the outspeed, but then it has to be very cognitive of a Terrestrialization of the Ogerpon in order to essentially take all of the especially offensive output that Aurelien does have available.
This one's always difficult when it's a Flutter Mane v Flutter Mane, but it looks like Justin might get this one right. Protect coming out Aurelien's Flutter Mane. Actually, the double protect. All right, we're keeping it safe. I was going to say, this could be a massive call. We're keeping it safe. This also, too, does secure that you know what Justin's going to be locking into with that choice specs, so you can play around that, have that information going on forward.
Yeah, it's a really safe scout and smart to be able to at least anticipate and follow up on it. So now that you've got a bit of a understanding of what move it's slotted into, maybe you can actually terrestrialize outside of that weakness if you are the Flutter Mane, for example.
Yeah, and Aurelien, you now know that, hey, there is the Shadow Ball. You saw that it was targeted into the Landorus, but you do have to be aware that it could be targeting into your own Flutter Mane, and either go for the terrestrialization, spend it right on this moment, which does mean your Landorus can be weak to something in the back, and you already saw that Porygon 2 earlier, and Aurelien doesn't know if it was brought this time around. King Gambit, though, this will be the one hitting the field, an icy wind firing off into it. It will be the double connect in King Gambit. It might be slower, but it's definitely going to get stronger with the Defiant now activated to give it +2 to its attack.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolutely lethal Pokemon to go up against if it can survive, and it just barely does. Earth Power, what a great focus from Aurelien there in anticipation of the switch up. Shadow Ball is enough to pick up the KO, and all of a sudden Justin has picked up a KO and also has a +2 King Gambit.
That survival was key, and not being able to get rid of it. Sure, it is a slow Pokemon. Sure, it's on a sliver of health, but you do have the priority. Facing off that Urshifu coming back, I mean, in perfect time, though, since there is going to be something that can be outspeeding, and King Gambit, sure, it might resist the Dark Hit, but it can't quite at that health. But then focusing that down, you are then at mercy at the Flutter Mane over onto the opposing end. And already, even just looking at the fact that there's Shifu over on Aurelien's end, it doesn't have a defensive Terra, so you're still actually going to be taking a lot of damage from that potential Flutter Mane in the first place.
Yeah, and I think the important part there is to be able to at least break that Focus Sash to allow your Pokemon in the back to be able to capitalize off of that. Maybe a faster Pokemon, being that Gouging Fire, will allow yourself more room to be able to enable the partner Pokemon. Flutter Mane, though, does feel a bit threatened at this current point. You can break the Sash, but you're likely susceptible to a KO.
Yeah, so Flutter Mane going to be swapping out for that reason. Sure, you could have pressured into the Urshifu, but also playing it safe. Bring the Ogerpon in onto the end of the field here as Sucker Punch into the King Gambit.
Nice.
Hey, you might have had the priority, but I am the faster priority. Take it down. Perfect Pokemon for Aurelien to have in the back to be bringing out for that situation. Sludge Bomb into the Ogerpon.
Oh, wow.
Still a super effective hit. And either the Flutter Mane or the Ogerpon in that slot would have been so heavily threatened. Ogerpon will survive, but barely.
Just barely, and this is a Pokemon that is so well known for its special defensive Volt. Obviously, it hasn't been able to capitalize off of terrestrialization and have the +1 and removal of the grass type typing, should I say, to take that a bit more better. But the most important key factor here is the survival. You do at least have the option of a redirection and maybe start setting up this Gouging Fire.
And only the Gouging Fire with the redirection on a low health Ogerpon. Don't think it's going to make it too far, though it was an attempt at the Sucker Punch, so that is going to be null and void. Howl will bring an attack boost to both of the Pokemon currently out on the field, making sure at least the Gouging Fire in the following terms. And hey, the Ogerpon, if you ever get there, take it out. But no, Landorus will be attacking into it. No reason to try and set up anything else. And that is already going to be final 2 Pokemon for Justin.
Yeah, this is a lovely place for Justin. He's trying to capitalize at least off of the momentum that he's able to get with that redirection. Now you know the Flutter Mane has to lock in. So you're either going to go for the Dazzling Gleam lock-in and at least try to get the Breaking Swipe, break the Focus Sash, and either force a terrestrialization over on Aurelien's side, or at least deal so much damage that Aurelien's going to start running out of resources.
And you do still have your Terra, so you are threatened by the Sucker Punch over on the opposing end, but going into the Terra, you can then defensively make sure you can be taking that hit a lot better to try and make sure you can be doing as most that you can on this turn.
Yeah, as we do see the terrestrialization, it is going to be the Fairy, and it is going to be trying to go for absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage right now.
All right, Landorus, that will be the Protect, though, not wanting to take that ridiculous amounts of damage potentially coming out here at this point, as Sucker Punch will fire off into the Flutter Mane, taking that hit just so much better. It'll actually be a Heat Crash, not the Breaking Swipe coming out. So instead of breaking the potential Sash, instead targeting into the Landorus, the Dazzling Gleam, it'll do so much. But of course, no Sash broken means that Urshifu will stick around.
Yeah, it will indeed. But I actually quite like this position for Justin, because at least you're limiting the switch out potential that Aurelien has on their side. So you're forcing the Landorus to either take all of that damage or terrestrialize or have to switch out.
And that'll be the thing there. So the lander is sure you protected past turn, but actually going for the double protect and hits it. 1 in 3 chance. And you're going to get it this time around. Sucker Punch, a little bit more damage onto this Flutter Mane. It's going to be huge. Heat Crash again, null and void. You see the look on Justin's face.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy. That is a very unfortunate situation. Like Aurelien playing to their outs, naturally speaking, they want to be able to allow more room for that final 4th Pokemon to contest with the terrestrialization mechanic there and at least force a 50-50 mind game on what Justin needs to anticipate and focus down on. So hence why you see such dismay in Justin's face there.
Sometimes you just have to go for it, and if you hit it, it pays off in dividends. Heartflame Ogerpon, the last and final Pokemon for Aurelien here, and now this is where we'll see that Breaking Swipe come out. But at this point, two spread damage attacks.
Yep.
Like, will you even get the amount of damage you need?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Aurelien could try to focus down on getting a 3rd Protect, but no, we got that Poison Terror, which is likely an indication of at least trying to go onto the offensive.
Or at least just making sure that you are going to be striving past this. Follow Me coming out from the Heartflame Ogerpon. Make sure if there was a single target, it is going to be redirected at this point, as Break and Swipe is going to be the force. It does do a significant amount of chip, bringing each one down just about a 3rd. But when we see the Dazzling Gleam, that one I don't think is going to have the impact it needs.
No, as it is double resisted right now from both Pokemon on Aurelien's side. Not even close on being able to pick up a KO, allowing Aurelien to do exactly that. The Gouging Fire is out. You can see, unfortunately, in Justin's face, this is looking like a locked-up situation. Unless, Sierra, there's a double crit.
Hey, I mean...
Right?
I mean, there has been some crazy things that have happened, and with no other option, you just have to go for it. Dazzling Gleam into the final 2 Pokemon. Little health, barely anything there, but the Wood Hammer is going to seal the deal for Aurelien Soula to take this series 2-0.
And what a way to do it. Justin really trying to play to all of his outs there.